What is going on, guys? J.Yumeko here, and today we're here with the first episode of Root Double Before Crime After Days Extend Edition. This little bad boy was on Steam, and I just so happened to crawl upon a very, very old $20 gift card, which I put towards this game. I figured, why not? So, this game was recommended to me by one of my viewers, my awesome viewers. I do have a couple other games in mind that have been recommended by you guys that will probably make an appearance on this channel, but you know, we're still finishing up. I mean, hell, man, we're finishing up the Shell Part 1 Inferno, where I'm eventually wanting to get around to the second part, or I guess sequel of House and Fata Morgana. We got some stuff to get through, but this game supposedly is very, very fucking long. I think it was like, the comment that explained it to me said something about 100 hours, but that was with a lot of talking and stuff in the middle because it was like a streamer or something. So, but bottom line is, it's pretty fucking lengthy. So, without further ado, let's jump on into it. Again, I have very little idea of what this is about. All I know is that there's some kind of disaster that happens, and I guess we have to survive our way through it. So let's see it. Root select. Okay, awesome, cool. We're selecting roots. Oh, there's well, that would explain why it's before or after days. Okay, 9 souls are trapped in Labo. They attempt to escape the facilities in the face of that hopeless situation. However, reality sneers at those struggling to survive. At the limits of fatigue and anxiety and death looming over them, something lurks in their hearts. Is it the courage to give up? Or can they cleave a path to the future with their own hands? So let's see. We're from the perspective of Tase Kasasagi. It's 2030 September 16th. 0916. Let's see. So this is the before. So a certain accident traps children in Labo, a nuclear research facility. It is then that the boy is caught up in a mysterious phenomenon. He finds himself recalling the past as if he were reliving it. A strange phenomenon indeed. He soon watches once again as a trivial incident causes his peaceful days to collapse. What awaits him at the end is a shocking, cruel truth. Can the past be rewritten? So it's going to be Natsuhiko Tenkawa. This is September 10th. 0619. So I don't know what we should choose. I mean, obviously the before is taking place on the 10th, after is taking place on the 16th. I'm gonna kind of wing it and say, like, hey man, let's jump right on into like the meat and bones of this bad boy and go with the after route first, right? So let's jump on into it, I guess, right?
彼らは捕虜が集められるように牢に集められ、獄に閉じ込められる。多くの日が経った後、彼らは罰せられる。旧約聖書、イザヤ書24章22節。
Putting out the scriptures. Jesus Christ, that is loud. The roar echoed through the laboratory at daybreak, as if it were a bell heralding the end.
何の音だ？わかりません。第一エリアの方から。
Alright, real quick, let me. Is there a way to? I don't want to quit the game. Here we go. I just want to make the text. Okay, message speed. Let's see that. Make that a little faster. Let's just do max. I like doing max. Came from area 1.
確認を。はい。あ、いけません。増幅中にゲートを開けては。
Jesus. Okay, I need to turn my game down. Second explosion.
ただいま地下1階第1エリアで激しい振動を感知しました。
The roars didn't stop there.
ただいま地下2階第3エリアで激しい振動を感知しました。
That's 3 explosions. The loud noises and violent shaking continued to echo through to the facility.
ただいま地下1階第2エリアで火災が発生しました。
Followed immediately by shockwaves and the sound of screaming.
ただいま地下2階第2エリアで激しい振動を感知しました。
Jesus.
施設内のセキュリティを避難モードに移行。
Oh, everything's fading out. There wasn't a soul in that place who yet understood what had happened there. A clear voice echoed amongst all the confusion and cacophony.
緊急放送です。ただいま施設内で原因不明の爆発が発生しました。
That voice that announced the destruction. September 16th, 2030, 6:19 a.m. at the 6th Laboratory of Atomic and Biological Organization, a scientific research facility located on the outskirts of Okume City. An explosion occurred. Oh, wow. Jesus Christ. This is like watching the HBO Chernobyl show all over again. The automatic PA screamed out warnings as if it had broken. It was an accident that should have been impossible.
消火システムが作動しない。なぜだ。くそ。署員の避難を急がせろ。
Everyone had begun ranting madly, caught up in the chaos surrounding them.
非常階段が崩れ落ちただと。エレベーターもすべて停止しています。避難の術がありません。バカな。なんでそんなことに。とにかく避難を急いで。
But then a calm voice rose as if to quell the pandemonium.
みんな落ち着きなさい。
Oh, okay, voices or little mouth animations.
博士。
忘れたの？有事の際には即座に所轄の消防署に通報が届くシステムになっていることを。
Trust me, if we're talking about atomic disasters, those are situations in which everything goes fucking wrong.
ものの数分で
Your sprinklers aren't working, the evacuation is going slow, your elevators are not working, the stairs have collapsed. I really don't think the facility is going to contact the fire department.
数分でそんな早すぎる。
彼らは通常の消防隊員ではないのに。特別高度救助隊シリウス、我が市が誇るレスキュー隊の精鋭たち。
It's like Daigo or something. I gotta finish that. I said it. 6:26 a.m. The rescue squad arrived at the scene.
隊長、A チーム全員揃いました。
A row of rescue workers wearing protection suits stood before a man garbed in the same outfit.
よし、全員そのまま聞け。現在このラボの中には無数の人が取り残されている。そして施設の性質上、これは通常の出場ではない。この現状では何が起こるかわからない。
Tip
どんな不測の
dispatch
事態も
added. I don't know what that means, but a young woman who appeared to be fairly new to the team gulped behind her faceplate. The captain looked at her and continued.
俺たちの任務は人を救助すること。いつもそうだったように、今日もそれは変わらない。だがお前たちはレスキュー隊員である前に人間だ。お前たちが生還すれば、それだけで1名の命を救ったことになる。
Can I say one thing real quick? The likelihood of the Japanese government putting together a special fire squad rescue team specifically for atomic incidents like this is kind of fucking low. Like they've got well, not really a track record, but you know what I'm talking about.
以上に留意し、救助活動に従事しろ。それでは幸運を祈る。
I don't know if the voices are going to be too quiet. They kind of seem a little bit quiet. Let me I'll turn the BDM down a little bit. Well, the voice volume's at max, but it just seems a little loud. Seems very very... whatever. We'll figure it out. With that shout, they rushed into the facility, all while having no idea of what awaited them there. And thus, the dispatch that would later come to be known as Sirius's longest day had begun.
立花は森部と堂島は檜山とツーマンセルだ。
Let me turn my volume up because they're so quiet.
B チームとの連絡を欠かすな。
Okay, that's not my imagination. Let me turn the fucking music down. I've always got to play with this fucking volume shit. They all had the same conviction: to accomplish the mission they'd been handed by whatever means necessary. However, what they found lurking down there far exceeded their imagination. Countless unexpected complications kept arising one after another.
森部、地下にまだ人が。行こう、副隊長。
カササギ、すぐに地下に来てくれ。時間がありません。急いで。
分かった。そこで待ってろ。
So we're the captain.
繋がらない。おかしいです。隊長に何が。
ここが N エリアか。
この先に例の2人が閉じ込められてるって言うんですか。
そうさ。だから行こう。
Okay.
あの時俺たちは誰も救えなかった。その贖罪をする時がようやく来たんだよ。
But even that determination can be crushed.
バカな、誰もいないだって。
騙されたのか。なぜ誰に。
What?
どうしてこんなことに。
Okay.
悔やむなお前
I'm
は。
gonna keep my thoughts.
今は後悔する時じゃない。まだ任務は続いているんだ。
ただいま係数 N が発生しました。緊急事態につきセキュリティを通常モードに移行。地上に続く全隔壁を閉鎖します。
俺がその子を探しに行く。
バカな、一人でか。
行くしかないだろ。お前たちは後を頼む。
So loud.
20分待って戻らなかったら俺を置いていけ。
He swallowed his regret and ran, all in order to stick to his true convictions. What is his true convictions?
君はこのラボの関係者だな。
Okay.
あなたは。
レスキュー隊だ。君たちを救助に来た。
Cute girl. Got it. Thus, he found a lone girl, and then...
間に合うか。まだあいつらはいるはずだ。
This is so fast-paced. What is happening?
「きっとこの先に」
He endured the pain and kept on walking. And then, at the end of his mission, he came face to face with a monster. What the fuck? What is happening right now? The monster took hold of his wrists. The monster looked at him and laughed. The man spotted a broken wristwatch out of the corner of his eye. At that moment, just as an indescribable fear sent shivers down his spine, he was assaulted by an intense pain akin to his brain being crushed. The man screamed, faced with an agony unlike anything he'd ever felt before. He struggled to understand the source of the pain amidst the confusion engulfing him.
今のはまさかお前も頭の中を。
His well-toned body proved helpless in the face of that power. You damned monster! In spite of that, he struggled against it, attempting to complete his mission. Nevertheless, His will broke as the overwhelming pain surged through his head once more. He staggered backwards, clutching his head. The monster's face warped sinisterly, its gaze piercing right through him. He then fled without looking back. If he stood his ground, he'd be killed, annihilated. And so he held his throbbing head as he ran for his life. I have to get away, as far as possible. He had to retreat to a place where the monster's power wouldn't reach him. But it was all for naught. Everything in front of him flashed as he felt an agony like that of his head exploding. That was the last thing he felt. And then, as if someone had flipped a switch, his consciousness faded into darkness. Okay, so like 5 explosions go off in this atomic energy like research facility or something. Again, like I said, fire, elevators broken, stairs collapse, they can't get out. Special rescue squad has to come in. They go down in there, they split into what seems like 2 groups. So you have the 2 girls, the 2 guys, and the captain. It seems like the captain was specifically looking for that little girl. He finds her. They try and get to somewhere or to someone. They run into this quote-unquote monster who seems to have some kind of mind powers. And then now he's passed out. Did I get that right? Is that correct? Or am I off? Eventually, far past that frozen time, awake, a voice called to him. Or perhaps it was merely a memory of such a voice. He had heard that voice as he lay beneath the whitewashed tomb, and then time began to move. Okay. Awesome. His consciousness was in an endless darkness, a world where everything was closed off. Sight, hearing, touch, smell, taste. He'd been disconnected from all his senses. It didn't feel like there was a world around him for him to experience it all. Where am I? He didn't know. His head was a total blank. What is this? All he could sense was a feeling of loss. What's going on? It felt like he was lacking anything definitive. How did this happen? He desperately tried to figure out why. Soon enough, fragmented images twinkled in the corners of his mind. I see. So that thing attacked me. Is this death? No. The sound of a beating heart echoed inside him. He knew for sure he could perceive that. This guy is... No, not this guy. I'm... alive! Sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, pain. I have all of those senses. My body and consciousness are right here. I'm right here! Okay, so there seems to be some kind of differentiation in the text box here. It seems like he's like simultaneously... It's like simultaneous first and third person in his mind.
隊長、しっかりしてください。隊長、起きなよ隊長。隊長ってば。
With the sound of those voices suddenly filling his ears, the man opened his eyes.
気がついたのですね。
よかった。死んでるかと思ったよ。
The man said nothing as the woman before him started addressing him.
っていうか隊長、なんでこんなところにいるのさ。式場にいるはずじゃ。
それより、ご自分の名前を言えますか？今日が何月何日かは。
The man already felt confused in the face of the sudden storm of questions he'd been sucked into. He first tried to grasp the situation around him. The women in front of him were wearing orange uniforms. So they're firefighters. No, rescue workers? Their uniforms were covered in soot. Disaster, accident, rescue. Vague images related to those words swirled around the man's mind.
君らは、いや、ここは。
まだ起き上がらない方が。
The man ignored her warnings and sat up, and checked his surroundings. He was in some building he had never seen before. He'd apparently been lying in the middle of a hall. He could see cold steel doors and fire hydrants lining the corridor. A glance up at the ceiling revealed air ducts, sprinklers, and so... A sharp headache hit the man at that moment, causing him to fall to the floor yet again.
大丈夫？痛むの？
いや、大丈夫だ。
Just then, the man realized he was wearing the same uniform as the women. Why am I wearing this thing? He felt a strange sense of discomfort, like he had no connection with himself. Why was he in this uniform?
俺は一体。
The man stood up as he shook his groggy head. His body also felt off, almost like his body and mind weren't properly linked. It kind of feels like this isn't my body or something. No sooner had this thought crossed the man's mind than did the air suddenly shake.
なんだ?
The woman paid no heed to the man's confusion and instead exchanged glances.
また爆発。
火が出てるかも。行こう、副隊長。
ええ。隊長はそこで休んでいてください。私たちだけで行ってきます。
These uniforms look nothing like what they supposedly came in with, but that's just me. The woman who'd been called Lieutenant broke off into a run alongside the other woman, who was apparently her subordinate.
ちょっと!
Scared of being left alone and totally in the dark about what was going on, the man followed the two. He called out to them as he started closing the distance.
待ってくれ、君たち!
隊長、休んでいてと申し上げましたのに。
いや、大丈夫そうだよ。だったら手伝ってもらおうよ。
そうじゃない。教えてもらいたいだけなんだ。さっきの音はなんだ？何が起きてるんだ？
何言ってんの、隊長。どういう状況か分かってないの？
The women looked at each other for a brief second.
来ればわかります。我々についてきてください。
The lieutenant broke off into another run at those words, with the man hot on her trail. She then opened a door at the end of the hall, sending intense heat surging out of it. What is this heat? A heat haze filled the area, distorting their vision of what was before them.
早く消火せねば。
また爆発が起こる前にね。
The woman passed through the open doorway. The man followed suit and ran through the hallway, only to be greeted with hellfire. The man froze in shock at the scene he was confronted with, but the women quickly got to work without even a moment's hesitation.
消火ホースの用意を。
了解。ちょっと隊長どいて。
The female rescue worker pushed the man aside and pulled out a hose from a fire hydrant built into the nearby wall. She then passed it to the lieutenant, who directed its nozzle toward the flames.
放水開始。
了解。放水行きます。
A jet stream of water collided with the flames, which erupted into a large cloud of steam. Incredible. The fire's getting smaller and smaller by the second. The man stared at the swiftly dying fire with stark amazement. Just then, he heard something else mixed in with the sound of the flames evaporating. A faint sound. Was that a voice? He wondered if it was his mind playing tricks at him for a second. But as soon as he strained his ears, he definitely heard what sounded like a young girl's voice coming from the room in front of him.
あの部屋、誰かいる。
The man's body started running as soon as his thought hit him, weaving its way through the gap between the flames. The room's door was crushed inwards due to the effects of the explosion. The man peeked into the room from the shadow of the broken door and discovered a world of fire and smoke. Where is it? Where's that voice coming from? His hair was singed by the sparks bathing him, creating an awful stench that hung in the air. What's more, his eyes were tearing up thanks to the smoke irritating him, but he endured it and focused on searching the room. Found her. Through the fire and flames, he could see a girl crouching under a desk in the room. The girl looked towards the man's voice with hope in her eyes, but the moment her gaze met the man's, her face froze. What's with that look? Overcome with confusion, he came to a halt. But at that moment... Oh? Okay. So I'm assuming this here is going to be the actual Kusasagi, right? Like, clearly there's been, like we said earlier, and like the game said, there's been like a disconnected link. He suddenly heard a voice. He didn't know whose it was. It sounded like it had echoed from inside him. But the moment he heard it, everything suddenly fell into place. He finally realized why he was here. That's right. I came here to save her. The moment he came to that realization, his previously divided body and nerves seemed to finally become one. The flames were closing in on that girl. The voice resounded yet again in his head. And with that command giving him the final push he needed, the man lunged into the burning flames. But then why she's scared of us is going to be our question right now. Alright, chapter 1, 9 o'clock chapter. Oh, what's the thing? Senses sympathy tutorial. We apologize for interrupting you so early on, but there are no choices in this world. Regardless, we need your power to link this world with the future. So the senses sympathy system has been prepared in order to allow you to willingly influence the world. This tutorial will explain the SSS to you. But before that, let's explain what we mean by senses here. Senses refers to impressions, emotions, sensations in this context. Put it simply, it's your assessment of how you feel about someone else. In other words, if their senses are high, you have a good impression of that person. But on the other hand, if their senses are low, that means you have a bad impression of that person. And the senses sympathy system exists to quantify your senses and reflect them on this world. Now then, let's explain how to change the value of your senses. Oh. In specific scenes, a graphic that looks like a magic seal will appear in the upper right-hand corner off the screen. This is known as an enneagram. An enneagram is a kind of personality accessor that categorizes people into 9 different personality types. Each of the 9 main characters of the story have been categorized in these 9 types. Thus, the 9 characters have been distributed under the 9 points of the enneagram. A graph similar to a radar chart is displayed on top of the enneagram. This graph is a symbol that represents senses. The shape of the graph corresponds to the 9 characters, and its shape will change as you alter their senses. You can input the senses of 9 characters, which includes the protagonist. Thus, in a sense, you may also set the sense you have for yourself. In such an instance, you determine whether or not you have confidence in your instincts and opinions. Alternatively, you determine how much you value yourself. Senses sympathy system. Truly a system where you determine the protagonist's various senses each time. Your senses will be used to determine which scenario divergence you'll travel down at fixed divergence points. At divergence points, the story automatically diverges in accordance to the level of your senses. You can't simply input your senses whenever you want. You can only do that at sections known as branches. When you arrive at a branch, the enneagram will appear in the upper right-hand corner. Please check if the enneagram is displayed or not to determine when you can and can't input your senses. Allow us to explain it in detail through example. Let's play a demo scenario branch where you actually control the system. First, please take a look at the next screen. The senses input hasn't appeared yet, so please just play through the text as you normally would. Okay, sounds good. In a certain boy's house. A TV and a game console were sitting in a neat, tidy living room. Just then, a girl came down from the hallway and spoke in an inquisitive voice.
ねえねえ、何しているの？ゲームの練習？
Yes, I am.
とても大切なことなの？そっか。じゃあ忙しいんだね。ちょっとお話ししたいことがあるんだけど、今はダメだよね。
The girl looked at you hopefully as she said that.
ごめんなさい。邪魔みたいだから、また今度にするね。気にしないで。 そんな大したことじゃなかったか
Tell
ら。
me I need to know.
それじゃあゲームの練習頑張ってね。
The girl slumped her shoulders with disappointment, and she left the living room with a lonely step in her gait. This was an example of an occasion where your senses for that girl's were low. Now then, let's play that scene one more time, with the goal this time being to make the girl happy. There will be a branch this time, so you can input your senses there. When you arrive at the branch, the enneagram will appear in the upper right-hand corner. Please increase your senses for the girl before the enneagram disappears. When the senses light up, please click it to bring up the senses input screen. You can also bring up the input screen by pressing the V button. When you click the senses, you will arrive at this screen. This is the senses input screen. Use the cursor to choose which senses you'd like to change. Bring it to the knob directly below them, then change their senses. Click the Decide button to set your values and to finish the input process. You can only do a senses input one time per branch. You can't input again if you can't put again if you change your mind after you've decided, so please be careful. Okay. I don't know what any of that means.
何しているの？え？ゲームの練習とても大切
So
な
I
こと
hit
な
V.
の？
Okay. Ah, okay, I see. So type Peacemaker. Well, my first thing is like, does this... Huh. Well, that's kind of interesting because, like, well, obviously this is going to be explained later, right? Like, once we actually start playing the game, but it seems like, you know, okay, I get a choice and I could just go like, oh yeah, let me go to, like, any one of these characters and just crank it to max. Although, again, I guess this isn't, this is clearly not going to be like a stereotypical make a decision and then that depends on how things go. This is going to be quite literally tell us what you think of this character. So, like, if I happen to end up hating this girl right here, I'd be like, oh man, she's such an annoying bitch, man. I hate this bitch. Boom, minimum. That's what would change the trajectory. But let's put it at max for now, I guess. I don't know. Once you set your values, I'm going to change them to the next branch. Well, that's kind of worrying. I don't know anything about her. Clearly she's important. Let's just do it like almost max. Maybe. I don't know if it matters. Fuck it. We're just going to do max. I don't give a fuck, man. Let's not complicate this. I got an achievement for that.
そっか。あのね。
The girl looks at you hopefully as she said that. So you...
お話ししてくれる？いいの？本当に？はーい。ありがとう。あのね。今日は七夕っていう日なんだって。
Turning my volume back down.
それでね、短冊に願い事を書くと、それは叶うんだって。だから、今から準備しなきゃって思うの。
The girl then started talking happily about the bamboo trees that were set up on Tanabata. Congratulations, you successfully raised the girl's favor. In this example, the girl had two different reactions, but there may be more than that depending on the situation. Also, there isn't always just one census target. If there's ever more than one target that you need to take into consideration, you'll have to reevaluate your senses for them individually. In these situations, you can input for more than one character, but the only ones whose senses you can input are those who are involved with the next branch. You cannot alter the senses for an unrelated character. There will occasionally be times where senses hold a greater importance than usual. As such, there are 3 different senses colors, each one corresponding to the importance of the upcoming branch. Blue, this signifies an event where you can properly influence a target's favor. A blue branch, as it's known, is generally not all that important. You don't need to change your senses every time it comes up. All you have to do is change it whenever your impression of the target alters. But if you neglect too many blue branches, it could have dire consequences for you farther down the line. Yellow. This generally signifies an event where you can properly influence someone's actions. A yellow branch, as it's known, is generally very important. Expect them to signify big changes, such as changing your destination or travel partner. They're not dangerous, but it's best you change your senses to reflect your intentions at these points. And though it's rare, a yellow branch can signify that a branch of grave danger is approaching, so please be careful. Red. This signifies grave danger. A red branch, as is known, is of the utmost importance. Decide incorrectly and you'll find death lying in wait for you. Keep your eyes peeled to avoid danger, and please check your senses immediately to ensure there are no problems. Also, branches directly related to the story's conclusion will be red. We recommend you exercise cautious judgment there in the same way. This concludes the sense of sympathy system explanation. Your senses will change the situation in various ways. Now then, let us return to the world. When time starts again, a senses input will appear right away. The Enneagram will be glowing yellow. This indicates that a branch of great danger is coming up. Should you choose wrongly, death may soon claim the man. Please look over the situation calmly and select your senses right away. We're expecting your feelings to have a good effect on this world. That was a very fucking interesting tutorial. Alright, the man screamed this and was about to rush into the flames, but was interrupted by someone grabbing him by the collar. Ooh. Okay, let me save real quick, first off. Yeah, let's just do a save. So I just want to see, like, this is something where it's like, now that it's popped up, I can only do this. Once he heard her say this, the man... Ah, okay. I see. So let's reload this. So I see. So it's not like... So there'll be a couple of lines of dialogue to give you a little bit of information. But it's not like hyper predictable or anything, right? So... so the yellow changes someone's action, which in this case it would mean that there's grave danger. So then when I ignore it and don't change anything, then all of a sudden it'll change and be like, oh, well, now all of a sudden there is grave danger because you didn't do anything. So let's see. Who do we have to work with here? We have Watase Kasasagi and Jun Moribe. I don't fucking know. Okay, well, let's do as the tutorial says and calmly assess the situation. There's a blazing fire burning. We have seemingly either lost our memories or are quite literally not ourselves. Do I trust that we're going to be able to run in here and save her without dying? But at the same time, do I trust that this other girl is going to be able to run in there and save her without dying as well? And then even further, what do I do here? So if I change the impression of Kasasagi, well, I would imagine it's like if I'd said, okay, Jun Moribe, right? And if I raise my opinion of her, then wouldn't I, like, not rush in? And again, couldn't I theoretically put both of these to max? Let's play around with this. Let's see what happens. The man screamed this and was about to rush into the flames, but someone grabbed him by the collar. Once he heard her say this, the man gave his quick reply. Huh. Okay. But just as he was about to continue running, the blaze in front of him flared up violently. What if I lowered the opinion of him? Let's see what happens. Okay. So that's interesting. So, wow, that's a very interesting mechanic. Oh, wow. So because I set it to where, like, I have a low opinion of Kasasagi, he seemed to back off. I want to test that theory real quick though. So let's go back here. What if here we put full faith in Moribe and we drop our opinion of Kasasagi to minimum? What happens if we do that?
隊長
しかし
ここは
Got it, I'm counting on you. There you go. Okay.
頼む
That is very fucking cool. Oh, what the fuck? Alright, gave that answer instinctively. He felt more at ease leaving it up to her.
よし任せて
The female rescue worker quickly brushed the man aside, dashing into the room.
隊長放水援護よろしく
So I was right in saying that this is, like, that system is likely gonna replace the whole, hey, choose, like, a text option, which will then steer you in one direction or the other. That's cool. I like that.
了解
The lieutenant pointed the hose upwards. The jet stream shattered apart when it hit the ceiling, scattering into spray. The female rescue worker then ran into the room as if clad in that water. What an amazing technique. It was perfect teamwork. The female rescue worker then ran up to the girl through the mist and steam.
しゃあ要救助者確保
And shouted triumphantly. The dramatic rescue had happened in the blink of an eye. Alright, we got the fire down. A few minutes later, once the roaring inferno had been doused, the rescue workers tended to the girl they'd saved.
さあお嬢ちゃんもう大丈夫だよ
お怪我はありませんか？
The man stood a short distance away, observing them. In the end, he'd been completely useless, both at putting out the fires and at saving her, so he figured the least he could do was talk to her.
そのなんだ無事でよかったな
Another frightened look engulfed the girl's face at that moment.
隊長がどうしましたか？
俺は別に何も
怖がらせないでよ隊長目つきが怖いんだよ
あいやすまなかった驚かせちまったみたいだな
Well, clearly this girl here in the middle has to know something, right? Because she literally saw us. Like, we had run up to her and we're like, hey, I'm gonna save you. And I'm assuming we took her with us when we ran into that monster, right? I don't know. There's a lot of gaps right now.
だが安心してくれ俺たちは味方だ君を助けに来たんだ多分
The girl's body shook with a start upon hearing that.
隊長どうして多分なんておっしゃるんですか？
そうだよ隊長さっきからなんか変だよ状況がわからないとか言うしなんか全然使い物にならないし
すまん
After giving a brief apology, the man fired off another question.
ところで二人に聞きたいことがあるんだが俺が隊長って呼ばれてるってことはつまり俺はレスキュー隊かなんかの隊長なんだよな
はあ隊長何言ってんの
それはどういう意味でしょう？
The man thought hard once he heard their surprised answers, but as he'd feared, he couldn't locate any information about himself in his head.
その実はわからないんだよ自分が誰でここがどこなのか
The woman's faces twitched at that proclamation.
それはまさか
記憶喪失
Amnesia. The man mulled over that word. So that's what it is? But for some illogical reason, the answer, no, that's not it, suddenly popped into his head. It's more like my mind's denying me the right to think about who I am. It was a strange feeling. But since it didn't look like he could explain what had happened to him very well, he reluctantly decided to go with their suggestion.
そういわゆる
So-
記憶喪失らしい
And again, it seems like there is some inkling of himself in there, because I'm guessing that's what that was, that voice that was telling us to go save this girl, right? And obviously that quote-unquote monster had something to do with it. So maybe... And it seems that Kasasagi had known about that monster. So it seems like, for one, that wasn't his first run-in with these monsters. And for two, these monsters seem to obviously have the ability to wipe away one's personality, almost.
またまた冗談やめてよ隊長。
いや、これが冗談ならいいんだが。
ってもしかしてマジなの？
お待ちください隊長。頭に怪我などはされてませんか？
怪我？そういえばさっき頭がズキンと痛んだが。
やはりどこかに頭を打ちつけた可能性があります。意識や記憶の混濁はおそらくそのせいでしょう。ならば記憶は時間が経てば戻ってくるはずです。
そういうものなのか。
ええ、外傷による逆行性健忘症はほとんどの場合は特に治療をしなくてもやがて自然に症状が消えるそうです。
The lieutenant calmly explained that as she threw around a few technical terms here and there.
じゃあこれは一時的なものか。
はい。ただ脳が損傷していた場合、健忘症は恒久的になる恐れがあります。さらにそのまま放置すると脳に障害が残ったり、
yeah,
死亡してしま
internal
うケー
brain
スも考え
bleeding.
ら
Never
れ
heard of
ま
it.
す。
The man felt a shudder run through him at those words.
何それ、やばそうじゃん。隊長、頭痛の程度はどうなの？吐き気とかは？
あ、今は全く痛まない。吐き気も特に感じない。
なら安心かな。
いや、まだです。隊長、ちょっと失礼します。
The woman grabbed the man by the arm, rolled up his sleeve, and looked at his wrist. He hadn't noticed it until that moment, but he has some kind of wristband-like object wrapped around it.
これは
バイタルチェッカーと言います。装着者の健康状態を自動診断するものです。
A closer look revealed there were several numerical readings and 5 green lights on the device.
コンディションオールグリーン。脈拍、血圧等に問題なし。完全に健康体ですね。
That's pretty cool.
じゃあとりあえず死んじゃうような心配はないかな。
ただ確実な診断ではないので楽観視はできません。後ほど。
The female rescue worker's eyes widened as soon as she heard the lieutenant's reply.
あ、やばい。それよりもまず副隊長。
Wait, what did she say? We can't be optimal. Huh.
お嬢ちゃんに AD を投与しないと。
The lieutenant's face froze at those words.
いけない。私としたことが。
AD? The lieutenant wasted no time in taking something out of her pocket. It was an ampule loaded into a transparent container. The lieutenant turned it towards the girl and spoke.
腕を出してください。
打ちたくない。
ダメです。投与しなければ危険なんですよ。
The girl turned around and tried to run, but the lieutenant grabbed her before she could. She then rolled up the girl's sleeve without giving her a chance to speak and pushed the tip of the ampule into the girl, injecting her with its contents. The girl's eyes widened and her body trembled. Feeling rather unnerved by her reaction, the man spoke up.
なんだその薬。
AD と言います。簡単に説明すると放射線被曝を防ぐ薬です。
Ah, yeah. Of course, yeah. The man felt an ominous echo in those words.
被爆を防ぐ薬だって。
ええ、今回の任務にあたってこの施設の関係者から支給されたものです。我々が生き延びるにはこの薬品の投与が不可欠なのです。
The lieutenant surveyed her surroundings, then continued in a bitter voice.
現在この施設内はくまなく放射線に汚染されていますので。
I mean, I would say, yeah, and we're walking around here, like, with no helmets on or anything, but I don't even think that would do much.
何？
The bad feeling he'd gotten earlier only intensified with that statement.
ちょっと待ってくれ。放射線とか汚染とか一体どういうことなんだ。ここって何の施設なんだ。
The lieutenant took a good hard look at the bewildered man and followed up with a clear answer.
研究用の小型原子炉を要する原子力科学研究所です。その原子炉が つい2時間ほど前メルトダウンしたのです。
Even though it was supposed to be his first time hearing that word, it still managed to send shivers down the man's spine.
メルトダウンって。
簡潔にご説明しますと、何らかの原因で原子炉が融解し、炉内の核燃料が外に漏れ出すことです。しばしば爆発や出火などを伴う極めて重篤な事故、それにより人体に悪影響の強い放射線が拡散し、施設全域を汚染しつつあるのです。
バカな、汚染って言ったってそんな兆しはどこにも。
放射線は目には見えません。匂いもありません。しかしそれでも確かに人体を蝕みます。
The lieutenant then took some sort of device out of her pocket. Like a
放射
Geiger
線計
counter.
測器プロキオン。ここに表示されている数値は現在毎時1108ミリシーベルト。これは自然界における放射線量の約2000万倍にあたります。
2000万。
放射線は通常の環境下でも宇宙や地表などからわずかに照射されていますが、線量が弱いため人体に影響はほぼありません。しかしこの1108ミリシーベルトという異常に強い線量にさらされた場合、つまり被爆した場合、人体に深刻な悪影響が現れます。皮膚のただれ、嘔吐感、臓器不全、脳細胞損傷、視力障害、神経障害、遺伝子障害、そしてがん。
The lieutenant's matter-of-fact explanation caused all the hair on the man's body to stick up on their ends in fear.
100ミリシーベルトも被爆すれば、これらの健康被害が発生し得ます。そう考えると、現在の線量はあまりにも強すぎる。本来であれば、わずかに立ち入ることすら絶対に許されないような環境なのです。そして線量は場所によって多少上下しますが、どこにいても被爆は避けられません。
避けられないって冗談だろ。なんでそんな状況で落ち着いてられるんだよ。
お待ちください。説明を最後まで聞いてください。
The man instantly shut up at the lieutenant's firm voice. She gestured to the She gestured to the empty ampule in her hand and continued. Oh.
しかし、この AD という薬を投与しておけば、汚染レベルの低いところならほぼ 100% 被爆を予防してくれるのです。
Okay, well, I'm saving, that's for goddamn sure. How many save points do we have? Oh, fucking wow. 100. Okay. Well, I will not be stingy with those. Okay, so we have the yellow, which means that there is a ability to decide stuff. She's a loyalist. I don't know if those matter, the whole like oh no, because that's like personality types or something. I've completely lowered it myself. I'm thinking we just throw her to max along with everybody else. I really don't think there's a reason not to, as of right now. So we'll see what happens. 100% protection against the effects of radiation exposure, granted that you're in an area with lower radiation levels, that is.
100%。
これは通常の薬剤ではなく、医療用ナノマシンを構成体に含んでいて、人体が受ける放射線を無害化、排出してくれます。有効時間はわずか60分ですし、本数もあまりありませんが。
Basically, we gotta get the fuck out of here. Upon hearing her whole explanation, the man chose to trust her.
そうなのか。
Everything he just heard felt so utterly unrealistic, but given how the lieutenant had said it all with a straight face, it was probably true. But he suddenly felt a chill run through him.
なあ、それ俺たちは撃たなくて大丈夫なのか。
え？我々は先ほど投与したばかりですが。
The lieutenant and her subordinate gasped.
そういえば隊長が最後に
I don't know.
いつ？
わからん。
やばいよ、念のため投与しておきなよ。隊長もきっと持ってるはずだからさ。
The man frantically searched his pockets and quickly found an ampule in one of them.
あったぞ。
使い方は簡単だよ。 専用のカートリッジが付属してるから、それを装着して、あとは先端を折って静脈に密着させてノック部分を押すだけでいいから。
こうか。
Urged on by the woman, the man loaded the ampule into the cartridge. Once he injected it, the fluid in the container entered his body, accompanied by the slight prickling pain that came with the shot. And at that moment, he felt like something had faded from his head. What is this feeling? Is it a side effect of the drug?
どうしたの隊長、これで一安心なのに。
一安心。
The idea of feeling safe in this situation was totally insane to the man. There's no way in hell I could accept a messed up situation like this so easily. He decided to try asking a question in an attempt to keep himself from worrying.
なあ、教えてくれないか。俺は何者で、今はどういう状況なんだ。それとそう、出口だ。この施設の出口はどこにあるんだ。
The lieutenant and her subordinate exchanged glances upon hearing his chain of questions.
出口か。
ではこれからそこにお連れしましょう。歩きながら
I'm
現況を
guessing
ご
there's
説明
no
します。
fucking exit. The words seemed to carry a heavy weight to them.
ああ、よろしく頼む。
了解しました。隊長もお嬢さんもこちらへどうぞ。
She's just been here the whole time. The lieutenant started walking. The rest of the group soon followed after her. Closed circle. The group, led by the lieutenant, approached what appeared to be a connecting passageway. It was blocked by a metal door, but that opened once the lieutenant had operated a nearby terminal. On the other side was another block that looked like it belonged in an office building. This place is huge. Just then, the lieutenant turned to the man and spoke.
隊長のパーソナリティと現状のどちらを先に知りたいですか？
ああ、
Yeah, I was about to say.
パーソナリティから頼む。
わかりました。まず隊長のお名前ですが、笠崎渡瀬と言います。
笠崎渡瀬。それが俺の名前か。
The man, no, Watase, listened to the lieutenant list off facts about him with a strange feeling in his heart.
年齢は32歳、独身、6名士消防局特別高度救助隊シリウス所属のいわゆるレスキュー隊員。階級は消防司令補。そして私たちの隊の隊長、つまり直属の上司になります。ここまでで何か思い出せることはありますか？
いや、何も思い出せない。
そうですか。
We're gonna save again. I don't want to keep saving, but I'm going to keep saving. Okay, so if I remember correctly, the blue symbolizes... Well, as far as I remember, the blue is not very important, right? And I think it just is like... It's just kind of there, right? So this is probably going to be... Like, if I lowered it to, like, negative, right, I'd probably sit here and be like, I don't trust what you're saying. But if I leave it at max, it's probably going to be like, oh, yeah, you're pretty trustworthy. I don't really have a reason to change it,
ところで、
honestly.
君たちの名前は？
申し遅れました。私は橘風見消防士長。あなたの下で副隊長を務めさせていただいております。
Why does he carve this information into his memory? Kazumi Tachibana, my lieutenant, huh? Seems like the cool and collected type if you ask me. The woman named Kazumi appeared to be strict, both towards herself and others.
風見さんと呼べばいいのかな？
いえ、橘とお呼びください。継承等は不要です。
Watase nodded. Just then, the other rescue worker spoke up.
で、私が森出純、消防士、20歳。今年入りたての新人隊員。異名はシリウスの女特攻隊長。キャッチフレーズはカンと書いて純と読む。以後よろしく。
She felt like the complete opposite of Kazumi. Jun Moribe, the team's newest recruit, huh? She sure is a bright bundle of energy. She seemed to have a fierce will and yet a cheerful and friendly personality. She didn't appear to be very conscious of the hierarchy in the group, perhaps because she was a lot younger than her superiors.
口調が失礼なのはどうかお許しください。何度言っても是正されないのです。
私も普段は気をつけてはいるんだけどさ、現場に出るとついつい気性も口調も荒くなっちゃってね。
ああ、別に構わんよ。むしろ親しみやすいくらいだ。
So they're a special response fire squad that clearly has experience in these such situations with nuclear stuff. I would think they'd have a bit more to work within. Oh yeah, the faculty staff just happened to pass these out to us, right? Like I would think, okay, they have like their own shit that they can use, but whatever. That's just me.
やった、今日の隊長ってば話がわかるね。
Well, it looks like she's got the skills to make up for it. She'd have to have nerves of steel to stay so cheerful in a situation like this. Watase then turned to the last member of the party as that thought crossed his mind.
それでそっちのお嬢ちゃんの名前は？
The girl hid herself behind Jun as soon as Watase asked.
あらら隊長、ずいぶん嫌われちゃって。そんじゃあお嬢ちゃん、私にお名前教えてよ。
The girl only gave her first name.
ゆうりちゃんか。かわいい名前だね。よろしく。
Yuri. Something about that name bugged Watase. It feels like I've heard that name somewhere before. But no matter how much he studied her face or searched his memories, he couldn't remember anything solid. So he decided to give up and turn his attention back to Kazumi.
じゃあ自己紹介も終わったことだし、次にここで何が起きているのか教えて。
了解しました。それではまずこの施設についてですが。
Kazumi then quietly began to speak.
ここは六名市という町の郊外にある原子力研究所の中になります。
原子力研究所というと？
詳しいことは私にも分かりませんが、要するに原子力に関わる各種研究を行う施設のようです。施設名は原子力生物学機構第6研究所、通称ラボ。
Sixth Laboratory of Atomic and Biological Organization, Labo. So there's 5 others, presumably.
地上2階、地下2階建ての建物で、地下に研究用の原子炉がありました。そして本日、2030年9月16日午前6時19分、その地下で原因不明の爆発が起きました。同時に各所で火災が発生し、それにより施設の制御システムの一部に障害が生じました。このままでは原子炉の冷却機能にも障害が及ぶ恐れがあり、メルトダウン発生の可能性も出てきたため、その手の災害対策の訓練も受けている我々シリウスに救助要請が入りました。そして6時26分、我々は現場に到着。要救助者の捜索を開始しました。
Watase looked at the sturdy watch around his wrist. Its digital display read 9:27 a.m.
およそ3時間前か。
現場に突入したのはそれぞれ5名からなる A と B の2チーム。我々は A チームです。隊長は地上1階に前線基地を設置し、そこから A チームを指揮していました。 A チームは私と森部、それに堂島と檜山という隊員が組んで2名2組で行動していました。しかしその後、堂島檜山組との無線連絡が断絶、ついで隊長との連絡も断絶しました。これが6時35分頃のことです。
何があったんだ？
この時隊長たちは地下に降りたのかもしれません。地下は電波状態が悪く、無線がほぼ使えないようです。
Oh yeah, and didn't we tell them like if I'm not back in 20 minutes, go on without me or something?
そうか。でもどうして俺たちは地下に降りたんだろう？
要救助者の捜索のためという可能性があります。ラボ関係者によると、地下部分の避難はすでに終了し、地上部分にのみ要救助者が取り残されているという話だったのですが、
救助活動中に地下にも要救助者がいることが分かってね。それで私と副隊長も地下に降りたんだ。でも地下の火災が予想以上にひどくってさ、私たちが前に進めないでいるうちに要救助者も見失っちゃって。
そこで我々は地下2階に簡易基地を設置して再び捜索活動を開始したのです。そしてその直後7時15分頃 KSN を告げる不穏な警告放送が施設内に流れました。
KSN なんだそれは。
Oh yeah, that was like the security measure that they talked about. And then they said that they like sealed all the doors. Like the security protocol made it so where they like shut all the doors.
おそらくはニュークリア核を意味する言葉の頭文字だと考えるのが妥当かと思われます。
私たちの業界には N 災害って呼称があるんだよね。その場合だと N は核による災害を意味するのさ。
核か。
ああ、
それに関する警報が鳴ったってことは。
Save. Yeah, I'm gonna be saving a lot.
我々はこの時刻に原子炉エリアでメルトダウンが起きてしまったものと考えています。放送の後にプロ気温をチェックしたところ放射線量が異常に上昇していました。なのでおそらく間違いないかと。
つまり KSN っていうのはメルトダウンを指す隠語だろうね。
Personally, I disagree. I think KSN probably has something to do with that quote-unquote monster that we ran into. But we'll find out. By the time they finished explaining, the group had arrived in Area 2.
だったらできるだけ早くこのお嬢ちゃんを外に出してやらなきゃいけないんじゃないか。
Watase looked towards Yuri. She looked even more scared than she did earlier.
我々もそう思うのですが。
地上につながる階段はこの第2エリアにあるんだけど。
Kazumi and June paused and then looked down the hall. Standing there was a door with a plate that read emergency staircase.
何煮え切らないこと言ってんだよ。出口はあそこだな。行こう、ユーリ。
お待ちください、隊長。
Watase ran towards the door. Kazumi's voice grew fainter and fainter with each step. He ascended the dark staircase. But when he saw what awaited him at the top, Watase found himself rendered speechless.
なんだこれは。
An iron wall was lying just a short distance from the top of the stairs.
つまりこういうことなのです。
By the time he came to his senses, Kazumi and the others were standing right behind him.
こういうことって。
実は現在地上につながるすべての出口にこの隔壁が降りてしまっていて、私たちはこのラボの地下に閉じ込められているんです。
That's not good.
閉じ込められてるだと。どうして。
わかりません。ともかく KSN とやらが発令されると同時に地上に続く全隔壁を封鎖しますと。だからおそらくどこにも出口は。
そんな。外にいる人に連絡して開けてもらうってのは。
連絡ができないんだよ。ラボ内の電話は全部普通になってるし、無線も最初はなんとか使えたんだけど、なぜかどんどん通信状態が悪くなって今じゃほとんど通じないんだ。
That's fucking terrible. So you're left here to be slowly eaten away by radiation, which is, as far as I understand, a very painful fucking death.
だったら壊すなり無理やり開けるなりすればいいじゃないか。
Watase tried pounding his fist on the bulkhead, but it didn't budge an inch.
くそ、開けよ、ちくしょう。
But no matter how hard he punched, kicked, or pushed it, nothing changed. It didn't look like something that could be dealt with human hands alone.
こりゃ爆薬でもなきゃどうにもならなそうだな。
残念ながら爆薬なんてないよ。今の私らには破壊不可能さ。
この隔壁のせいで地下と地上が完全に分断されているのです。忌々しいことです。
Thought, excuse me, maybe it's not trying. I mean, like, presumably you would think, okay, they've got fucking iron bulkheads probably to keep the radiation in or something, but that doesn't make any sense for one. Well, I guess technically it kind of sort of does. I mean, that's what they did in Chernobyl. They just put a bunch of, but they didn't use iron. They used concrete, if I remember correctly. But there's if I remember correctly. But anyways, point being, they did like build a structure over the reactor that had exploded. So you could say that's what they're trying to do here. But then it's weird that it waited so long. Like there's these multiple explosions, obviously from the reactor, and then after like 5 different explosions, that's when it decides, oh hey, meltdown is happening, let's close all the bulkheads, you know. Wadase finally understood the situation when he heard Kazumi and Jun's comments, but it was a hard pill to swallow.
他に脱出に使えそうな場所は？
カイン、我々も閉じ込められてから2時間、あらゆることを試しましたが、エアダクトは通行不能、エレベーターは使用不能、天井は破壊不能です。
しかも本来この施設には完璧な消火システムがあるはずなんだけど、それもなぜか停止してる。そこかしこで火災が起きて出火場所も把握できてないんだ。
なんだよそれ、めちゃくちゃな状況じゃねえか。放射線が蔓延してるとこで火災も起きてて、しかも外には出られないだと。なんでそんなことに。
落ち着いてください。レスキューが取り乱してどうするのですか。
そうだよ隊長、ユーリちゃんが余計に怯えちゃうだろ。
With realization hitting him in full force, Wadase looked toward Yuri. She was hiding behind Jun and looking at him with trembling eyes.
すまない。
Kazumi and Jun were right. He couldn't show such disgraceful behavior in front of a frail girl like Yuri. Regardless of his amnesia, Wadase was most likely come down to the basement floors in order to rescue people. But at that moment, he was hit by a sudden question.
あ、そういや、ユーリはどうしてこのラボにいたんだ？
Just then, a tearful look appeared on Yuri's face for some reason.
どうしたんだ？
私はここの職員の家族です。それでたまたま巻き込まれて。
そうか。それは災難だったな。
Wadase turned his thoughts as he kept looking at Yuri. It really has been a disaster. For all of us. I really wish we could all get out of here. But he knew it wasn't that simple. In the first place, there was still way too much he didn't know about his current situation. Why wouldn't this bulkhead open up? Why wasn't the sprinkler system working? Why had he lost his memories and...
なあ、立花。俺たちはこれからどうすりゃいいんだ？
それについてもご説明したいと思います。
近くに簡易基地を設営してあるから、まずはそこに移動しよう。
They had no choice but to go along with what she said, and so the group's shoulders slumped as they proceeded down the staircase. Once they left the staircase behind them, Kazumi walked towards a nearby room and began talking.
ここが我々が設けた簡易基地です。各部屋の扉を開けるときはこちらのボタンを押すだけで結構ですので。
Kazumi pressed a button next to the door, causing it to open up just as she'd said it would. On the other side was a small office about 9 meters long. Various pieces of machinery, apparently the equipment that Kazumi and Jun had brought with them, were lying in a corner.
では隊長、このラボの構造を説明します。こちらにおいでください。
あ、頼む。
Kazumi took a pen from the desk and drew a simple map on the back of a piece of paper.
中心にある円形状のエリアがメルトダウンを起こしたとおぼしき原子炉がある特別高度実験棟、通称 N エリアです。この N エリアを他の6つのエリアが取り囲んでいます。各エリアには内周棟と外周棟があり、内周棟は外周棟より少し小さいようです。さらに各エリアは地上2階、地下2階の4階層になってますが、先ほど申し上げた通り、地上につながるすべての出入り口には
So basically we only have the 2 basement levels to traverse through, and then everything else is blocked off.
なるほど。俺たちは地下1階と地下2階でしか行動できないってことだな。で、今俺たちはどこにいるんだ？
それはこちらの第2エリアの内周と地下2階です。隊長が倒れていたのは第1エリア内周島のこの辺りです。隔壁が降りてから現在に至るまでの約2時間、私と森部で第1第2エリアの捜索を行いましたが、隊長とユーリさんの他に要救助者は発見できませんでした。無論脱出経路もです。地上に続く非常階段は各棟にありますが、全て隔壁が降りていることを確認済み。しかも第2エリア内周島の1箇所を除き、階段そのものが爆発で崩れてしまっています。
ってことは、他の要救助者を探すにしても脱出の手がかりを探すにしても、次は第3エリアに行かなきゃいけないのか？
いいえ、それもそうはいかないのです。
なぜ？
各エリアをつなぐ通路にはセキュリティゲートが設けられているのです。先ほど隊長も連絡通路を塞ぐゲートを見たでしょう。
そういえばそんなのあったな。
あのゲートにはロックがかかってまして、開けるためにはこのセキュリティカードが必要になります。
Kazumi took a card out of her pocket at those words.
これは捜索開始当初、たまたま通路に落ちていたものです。
It was a small plastic card that had a lanyard attached to it so it could be worn around the neck. On the front was the mugshot and name of a man who appeared to work at the facility and the words LV2.
レベル 2？
このラボは各エリアの機密性に応じてセキュリティレベルを設定しているようです。ゲートは内周島と外周島をつなぐ通路と各エリア間をつなぐ通路に2枚ずつあります。レベル2のカードがあれば第2エリアまでのゲートを開けることができるのですが、
Okay, I see. So in theory it'd be like, if we're starting from over here, it'd be, so in order to get to, because this is like what? You can open up all gates to area 2. So this is area 2. This is area 1. So we can assume it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And considering that this is a level 2 card, in order to get to area 1, you need a level 1 card. In order to get to area 2, level 2 card, level 3 card, 4 card, 5 card, 6 card. So yeah, I'm assuming it's going to proceed in that kind of order.
第3エリアに行くにはレベル3、第4エリアに行くにはレベル4と、適宜そのエリアに応じたレベルのカードが必要なのです。しかし我々は現在レベル2のセキュリティカードしか持っておりません。
じゃあ先に進めないのか？
もちろんカードさえ見つかれば他のエリアへ行くことも可能なのですが。
散々探したんだけど、見つかったのってさっきの1枚だけなんだよね。あと探してないのは隊長のポッケくらいかな。
俺のポケットね。
We're gonna have a MasterCard. Yeah, right. Like, I'm gonna have a level 3 card just conveniently sitting around in my pockets. In spite of that thought, Watase decided to search through his pockets and... Of course he fucking did.
嘘なもんか。ほら。
Watase took out two cards out of his breast pocket. They read Keiji Ukita and Zenshu Kake. They both said level 4.
レベル 4？ すごいじゃん。これがあれば第4エリアまで行けるよ。
So I guess the MasterCard would technically be like level 6.
しかしなぜ隊長がレベル4のカードを？
That is a good
それも
question.
2枚も。
Ah, you know what? Hold up. We remember, in that little intro bit where like 1,000 things are happening at once, we had come across what looked to be 2 bodies. So I'm guessing that's where we got those cards from, but it's kind of curious because, I believe that, oh, we get a map. Ah, that's cool. But I believe that it looks like one of the characters is going to be whose card we have, so... But I'm assuming that's where we got the cards from those dead bodies.
さあ俺に
Thinking there might be more clues in them, Wadase checked his other pockets, and found another strange item in his breast pocket.
これはなんだ
シリウス製式の PDA です。我々も持っています。
PDA
携帯端末ね。レスキュー隊じゃなくても今時持ってない人の方が珍しいよ。
So it's a phone. It's
機
an
能は
iPhone.
まず電話と無線それと熱源を感知するサーモグラフィー。
Infrared thermography. Damn, that's cool as shit.
どうやって使うんだ
使用法はこのタッチパネルを
Wadase tried tapping the screen as he listened to Kazumi's instructions. Nice. When he did, the screen filled with the primary colors, red, blue, and yellow.
赤いところが熱を持っているってことか
簡易なものですが状況によっては便利です。
なるほど
で、もちろんデータの持ち運びなんかもできるんだけど、なんかデータ入ってない？
どうだろう
Wadase tried just pressing anything that looked potentially helpful, but it didn't look like he'd be able to access any of the data folders. They were all locked with a password.
パスワードだってよ誰か知らないか
当然ながら存じません。
ちなみに電話機能は地下では使えないよ。無線も現在すごく精度が落ちてるし。
さっきも言ってたな
Despite that, Wadase decided to try and use the phone function. He first attempted to call Dojima, the co-worker that Kazumi had mentioned earlier, but all he heard was the sound of a dead dial tone. He next tried to use the radio function to contact Hiyama, his other co-worker, but all he heard this time was static. It was the same with every other number and frequency he tried to contact.
ほとんど役立たずじゃねえかせめてパスワードが分かれば何か手がかりになるかもしれないのにな
適当に思いついた単語でも入力してみれば？
It was right then that Yuri timidly spoke up.
やめた方がいいと思います。
どうしてそう思うの？
It'll lock you out if you get it wrong too many times.
大事な PDA だから万が一壊れたら大変だし。
そうだな
Wadase put the PDA away.
ところで立花たちが持ち込んだ備品はどんなものがあるんだ
ああ、それも覚えてないんだよね。じゃあ時間ないから手短に説明するよ。
すまない頼む
Jun nodded and pointed to the equipment line in the corner.
まずこれがさっき投与した AD。60分の間放射線被曝を予防する薬だよ。
今の俺たちの生命線か
そういうこと。支給されたものプラス施設内にあったものをかき集めてやっと7本。
That is nothing. We have a total of 7 doses. And we have 4 people. So that's gonna last us an hour. And then once we use those 4, we're gonna eventually have to do another round of doses. And somebody's gonna have to be left out.
施設内にも AD があるってことか
有事の際に備えて箱に入った AD がいくつか保管されてるらしいんだよ。でも第1第2エリアの AD はほとんど消失しちゃったみたい。
Well, hopefully Area 3 and 4 have some.
4人に対し残り7本ということはこのままじゃ2時間も持たないってことか
もっと数があった方が安心だね。それも今後探していこう。次にこれ放射線計測器プロキオン、いわゆるガイガーカウンターの最新版。この小さな機体で15000ミリシーベルトまでの放射線量を計測数値化できるんだ。これと AD はラボの関係者から支給されたもの。これがあったから助かってるようなものだよ。
My thing is, why the fuck are we relying? Like, we're supposedly trained in this. Our whole thing is that we're a special response fire rescue squad, but we don't have any of this equipment. We're being like gifted this equipment by the staff. Yeah, they really are handy. It's almost like the staff gave them to us, knowing what was to come.
なーにボケっと考え込んでんの？さっさと次に行くよ。 これは我が隊の基本装備ね。空気ボンベ。でも免停が破損しちゃって今はほとんど役に立たないんだよ。
そうか、重要そうなのに残念だな。
こいつはエアジャッキ。空気ボンベと組み合わせて圧縮空気の力で重いものを動かす強力なジャッキさ。
空気ボンベを使うのか。使用回数は有限ってわけだな。
免停が壊れた以上、それが空気ボンベの唯一の用途だね。さて次はエンジンカッター。強力な内蔵バッテリーで電動エンジンを駆動。
The jaws
人造
of
ダイヤの
life,
刃を
isn't that
回
what
し
it's called?
鉄でも
Or
何
is
でも
that
ス
a
パスパ
different
切っちゃ
tool?
う憎いや
興奮するなよ、目が怖いぞ。
つ。よく言われるよ。それと10メートルロープが1本で、装備は全部かな。覚えられた隊長？
あ、問題ない。
ちなみに他にも放射線防護服が2つあったんですが、防護服は消火活動中に破損して、
So that's why they're not wearing those suits anymore. Kazumi pointed to two ragged objects. Both protection suits had cracked faceplates.
気密性、耐火性、耐水性に優れ、面体部分にボンベを直接装着できることが強みだったのですが、そこが破損してしまったせいで空気ボンベも役に立たなくなってしまいました。
How the fuck did the faceplates crack is my question. Like, sure, you're fighting fires, but did, like, rubble fall on you and crack the faceplate? And then they were damaged by the fires, but it's like they should be fire, like, hey man, if these things are so, like, top of the line, obviously part of their design was intended to fight nuclear, like, fires. I would think that they would maybe be a little bit more fireproof, but
それは痛いな。
でもそういえば、
hey, this is just a lot
隊
of
長も防護服を
really
着ていたはずだよね。
crazy
どうして今
mishaps,
は着てない
one
んだ
after
ろ
the
う。
other, so.
動きにくそうだから脱いじまったとか。
まさか。本来この施設での救助活動には防護服の着用が義務付けられているんですよ。
Well, it looked like when we ran into the monster, we were already out of the suit.
そう
So,
か。でもわからんな。それも例によって覚えてないんだよ。
not only had he had 2 security cards on him, but he also had been wearing his protective suit. There were just too many mysteries about Watase's actions before he lost his memories. Seriously, what in the world was I doing in the basement floors? There's probably no one out there who could answer that question. Watase then spoke with a sigh.
ところで、この後、君らはどうするんだ？
Head to Area 3, I guess.
ええ、レベル4のカードも手に入りましたし、捜索範囲を拡大するべきだと思いますが。
隊長はどうする？休んでた方がいいかな。
Nah, I'm coming along.
そうですね。まだ記憶も曖昧なご様子ですし。
ああ、確かに。
Just as Watase was about to take them up on their offer, he locked eyes with Yuri. She still had fear in her eyes. He remembered the voice that he'd heard back when he'd rescued her.
止まるな。
They'd.
彼女を助けろ。
He suddenly began wondering if it was really okay for him to just be sitting around in this room. Is saving Yuri and simply leaving it that alright? I can't talk. Is saving Yuri and simply leaving it that alright? No. With his mind made up, Watase called out to Kazumi and Jin.
待ってくれ。俺にも要救助者の捜索を手伝わせてくれ。
しかし、
大丈夫なの隊長？
確かに記憶は曖昧だし、お前らから見たら足手まといかもしれないけど、腐っても俺はレスキュー隊なんだろ。だったら一人だけ休んでいるなんて耐えられないんだよ。
Watase was stirred on by an almost impulsive sense of duty. Kazumi's eyes widened, then she gave him a wry smile.
まったくらしいというか。
Her face then suddenly grew serious again.
隊長、本来であれば記憶喪失の原因も不明ですし、動向は推奨できません。ですが火災の恐れもありますし、 AD も投与し続けなければならない。ならば我々と共に行動するのが一番安全かもしれません。
そうか、 だったら
ただし
Oh. Save! Alright, we're gonna save here, and I have a sneaking suspicion. Well, let's just see how it plays out.
これは通常の現状ではありません。隊員として同行するならばそれ相応の覚悟をしていただきます。
Boom, we're gonna go to my boy. Bam! We're locked in.
記憶が戻るまでは隊長を新人隊員として扱います。
Uh-oh, that might not have been the right
隊長は森部と同様
choice. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
比例は重々承知ですがそうでもしなければ命に関わります。どうかご容
I'm
赦
guessing now that I put my thing all the way up to max, he's gonna be like, ha! Fuck no! Wadase felt overpowered by Kazumi's words,
あ了解だ
but he fired himself up by answering loud and clear. Jun shrugged her shoulders when she saw that.
いや隊長なんか面白い展開になってきたね。それじゃあ一時のこととはいえしばらく同輩としてよろしく頼むよ。
I am so utterly curious. I want to see what happens if we leave our thing all the way, like, low.
これは記憶が戻る比例は
ちょっと頼りない感じだけど
Ah, okay,
なん
okay.
とか大丈夫そうだね。
So he just answers a lot less confidently. I figured it might be something like that. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna bump ourselves up a nice lot here.
これは記憶比例は
あ了解だ
いやそれじゃあ一時のこと
Okay,
と
so
は
that
いえ
seems
しば
to.
らく同輩としてよろしく頼むよ。
I just don't want to put it at like max, because then it's like. I don't know. I don't know. Ooh, maybe I should put it. I don't know. I don't know.
そうだなこちらこそよろしくな
それではしばらくご辛抱を。記憶さえ戻れば誰より有能な隊長に戻れるはずですので。
うん、それを期待したいところだね。
そうなのか
His old self must have been someone amazing if Kazumi and Jun were counting on him so much. So I have to live up to their expectations as soon as possible. With that thought in mind, Watase turned to Yuri.
ユーリはどうするここで休んでいるか
A look of hesitation briefly flashed by Yuri's face after she heard that question, but she answered quickly.
私も一緒に行きます。
She'd probably realized just how grim the situation was after listening to the group's conversation. I'd feel better if she were with us too. Kazumi spoke up as that thought crossed Watase's mind.
では4人全員で第3エリアへ向かうことにしましょう。
それじゃあ携行する装備を選ぼう。隊長も手伝って。
ああ
And so the group quickly decided on their gear. First, they took all 7 AD, splitting them up amongst Watase, Kazumi, and Jun. Watase and Jun each took one Procyon. Meanwhile, Watase and Kazumi split the level 4 cards amongst themselves. Watase took the 10-meter rope. Yeah, 10 meter? Was that? I guess that is what it'd be. 10 meter rope. Hey man, I'm American. I don't know about all the goddamn meters and millimeters, kilometers. Took the 10-meter rope, wrapping it around his upper body in an X shape. Perhaps they were too lightly equipped, but they decided that mobility took precedence above all else.
皆さん準備はできましたか？
いつでも行けるぜ
それじゃあ行くよ。隊長、足引っ張んないでね。
おう精一杯頑張るよ
I don't know what I can do in my condition, but I'll still do my best. Watase swore to that, then left the makeshift base alongside Kazumi and the others. I think we'll stop here. I think this is a pretty decent stopping point, especially for a first episode. We'll go ahead and stop here. Okay. Let's see. Can we get back to the main menu? Title. Yes, and I've saved everything I want to save. Okay. So, that was the first episode of Root Double Before Crime After Days. Real quick, I want to note this intro, this like scene that we have before us, right? the bloodied chair with an axe smashed into it. A little bit ominous, but you know, whatever. So we've got a couple of interesting things going on. Obviously, we're trapped in the midst of a nuclear meltdown. Not good, to say the least. We have gotten amnesia, and there seems to be some kind of monster prowling about. So, like I said earlier, it does seem that Watase had, like, when Watase encountered the quote-unquote monster, he clearly knew that it was a monster. So it seems that he has some kind of previous experience with them. And then also, he mentioned something about, like, some kind of failure beforehand. Like, oh, there was something that they messed up on sometime before, and so this was like their chance at redemption. So there's some background stuff there. Obviously, these monsters are going to come back into play. It might even be something where we might have to end up like trying to root out who is the monster, right? We got a pretty good outlined profile of him when we had that when we like confronted him. Like it is a guy, and he's in a suit and tie. That's what we know. That's all we know right now. So obviously we have, I think, what did they say? 9 or I think like 9 characters or something like that. So I mean, there's 9 people. We've only been introduced to 4 of them. So, you know, there's still 5 more to go. And that's a fucking lot. But I do kind of wonder, I can't really talk too much on the plot right now, just because we are very much just getting started. I think next episode is when we'll really start diving into the actual like plot of the game. All of this seems to be kind of establishing characters, setting tone, and mechanics and stuff like that. But what I'm wondering is, like I said, is this going to end up being something where it's like you have to try and find out who amongst your group is the monster, right? It would make sense to me because it's like you have this system where you're essentially putting, like, with a slide meter, deciding how much faith you have in a person or how, or the lack thereof. So it's like, I could maybe see that being a mechanic to try and root out somebody that might possibly be a monster, because it seems that these monsters can appear in the form of a human. There's a thing with Yuri that Watase, before he lost his memory, seemed to have a lot of importance on saving Yuri. So she's clearly important in some way, shape, or form. And she seems to be scared of Watase. And isn't saying why. So, I mean, I imagine there also has to be a point where we're going to talk to her and she's going to be like, oh, well, you did this and that. And then that's going to be a part where we're going to get some memories back or something like that. So there's a lot going on. And then obviously we're trapped down here, like I said earlier. So there's a lot of things that are being like mixed in the pot right now. They're cooking right now. And the water is barely boiling. And I have to say, I am very invested in this. Especially because it seems like this isn't going to be necessarily like a static thing. Like, we're going to be going around this, how do you say? I can't think. We're going to be going around this like circle here. So obviously, we're going to go from area 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. And through that, we're going to probably meet new people. We're going to run into obstacles. We're going to have to survive, make right decisions, yada, yada, yada. And I'm excited for that, personally. So that's going to be it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like on the video and tell me in the comment section below what you'd like to see me play next. If you enjoyed this video or any other videos or series on my channel, then I highly recommend that you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified when a new one of those videos comes out. Anyways, that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!